Imagine for just a second that you are celebrating your 150th birthday.
Oh, boy.
Right. Just picture the actual logistics of this party. The cake would have to be absolutely enormous, like probably the size of a large dining room table, just to hold the decorations.
Yeah, and think about the candles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
150 individual flames burning all at once on a single surface. That isn't a celebration anymore.
No, it's a literal fire hazard.
Right. It is a fire hazard just waiting to trigger the smoke alarms. You would be sweating just standing near it.
Huh, yeah. You would need a commercial-grade fire extinguisher on standby before you even attempted to blow them out.
Yeah.
The heat alone would, melt the frosting before you could finish singing the song.
A completely terrifying thought. But it is a hazard we might actually have to face one day. So we are so happy to welcome you to the Coffee English podcast channel for today's deep dive.
Yeah, welcome, everyone. And we should probably mention this deep dive is mainly designed for English learners at a B1 to B2 level, although anyone can listen and enjoy it.
Definitely. And if you enjoy this, please leave a comment under the video, sharing your opinion, suggest new topics, subscribe to the channel, and leave a like. Recommend us to a friend if you are having a good time.
Yes, please do.
So today, our mission is to unpack a hypothetical scenario that sounds like science fiction, but is actually rooted in human biology. We are looking at what would happen if humans routinely lived to be 200 years old.
Yeah, and when you stretch human life out that far, you aren't just, adding more days to the calendar. You're fundamentally tearing up the social contract.
Oh, completely.
You alter the fabric of how we exist. We are going to explore the secondary consequences of a 2-century lifespan,
Right.
like how it would fracture our economy, rewrite the rules of marriage, and challenge our basic understanding of time.
To really grasp how wild a 200-year horizon is, we have to look at how much our relationship with aging has already shifted.
Right.
We tend to romanticize the past, but just a few centuries ago, making it to old age involved an incredible amount of luck. You had to dodge, so many diseases and infections.
The baseline of human health was incredibly fragile back then. The dramatic shift we enjoy today didn't come from magic. It came from plumbing and laboratories.
Yeah, clean water makes a huge difference.
Exactly. Clean water, modern sanitation, antibiotics, and vaccines. When we measure our life expectancy, and by life expectancy, I just mean the average number of years people are expected to live, we are really just tracking humanity's victory over those threats.
It is an incredible victory. Our life expectancy has skyrocketed, and we just take that completely for granted today.
We really do.
But I have to push back on the core premise here. Medical science, keeping our hearts beating for 2 centuries is amazing. But surviving isn't the same as living.
That is very true.
Right. What on earth are we actually going to do with all of that extra time?
That is the pivotal question, because our brains are simply not wired to comprehend a timeline that vast.
No, not at all.
Let's look at the ideal scenario first. If we move past the biology and look at the psychology, a 2-century lifespan removes the most intense pressure of the human experience.
You mean the rush to get everything done?
Exactly. Right now, our lives operate on a brutally tight schedule.
It feels like a sprint. You spend your first 20 years in a classroom, the next 40 years frantically trying to build a career, buy a home, raise a family.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
And if you are lucky, you get a decade or two at the end to relax before your body gives out.
That ticking clock dictates everything. But with 200 years, that sprint becomes a very slow marathon. Life is no longer a race.
So you wouldn't have to choose just one path.
Right. You could spend 40 years as a teacher. Then, you take a decade off.
Yeah.
Next, you train to become a pilot for 50 years. Then maybe start a business.
Wow. You could experience 3 or 4 entirely distinct lifetimes within a single body.
You really could.
I do love the romance of that idea. You wouldn't feel that crushing anxiety of a midlife crisis at 40 because 40 would essentially be your childhood.
Exactly. 40 is the new 10.
But let's introduce a little reality here. We are still fundamentally human, and humans are spectacular at procrastinating.
The great human equalizer. Procrastination.
Seriously. I think about this like packing a suitcase. If you have a flight tomorrow morning and you have a whole month to pack your bag, when do you actually fold your shirts?
Oh, at midnight, the night before the flight.
Exactly. Usually in a state of absolute panic. Without the limit of time, wouldn't our motivation just completely disappear?
What you are describing is Parkinson's law. It's the idea that work expands to fill the time available for its completion.
Right. So if your life is that suitcase and you have 200 years to pack it, You leave it empty until year 199.
Basically, yeah. We rely on the panic.
We do. That fear that we are going to run out of time. And when I say run out of time, I mean not having enough time to complete something. That literal countdown is the invisible engine driving society forward.
It really is. Deadlines encourage human action. If you remove the scarcity of time, you might inadvertently remove human ambition.
I can easily picture millions of people sitting on the couch for 80 years saying, oh, I will learn English when I am 120.
Yeah, or I will start exercising next century. We could become incredibly relaxed, but utterly stagnant as a species.
And that stagnation wouldn't just affect our personal ambitions, right? It would completely warp our social connections.
Oh, the relationships would be fascinating.
On paper, having a best friend for a century and a half sounds incredible.
It does. The inside jokes spanning multiple eras of history.
Yeah, but then you look at family structures and the logistics become terrifying.
Terrifying is the right word. If people are living to 200 and continuing to have children, you're looking at families with 6, maybe 7 generations alive at the exact same time.
Oh, wow. You could have a Sunday dinner where you sit across the table from your great-great-great-great-grandfather.
The holiday gift budget alone would bankrupt you.
I didn't even think about that. And imagine planning a family reunion. You'd have to rent out a hotel ballroom, wear name tags, and try to explain to a 200-year-old patriarch what you do for a living as a social media manager.
It would be so chaotic. But there's darker consequence to this that nobody really talks about.
What's that?
If generations are stacking up like that, what happens to grief?
Oh, right.
We focus on the extra years of life, but accidents and diseases would still occur. If you live for 2 centuries, you are mathematically guaranteed to attend hundreds of funerals.
You would watch countless friends, younger relatives, and partners pass away.
Yes, the psychological burden of carrying 200 years of compounded grief might be entirely crushing.
That is a really heavy emotional toll,
Yeah.
which brings up the most intense relationship of all, marriage.
Oh, this is a big one.
Here is where it gets really interesting. Could human psychology actually handle a single romantic relationship for a century and a half?
I mean, it completely dismantles the idea of marriage. The vow until death do us part carries a specific weight when death is 30 years away.
Right, but when death is 2 centuries away, that is a massive commitment.
It is a monumental psychological ask.
Because people change. Who I was at 20 is drastically different from who I am at 40. Extrapolate that out to age 160.
Expecting 2 individuals to evolve in perfectly parallel lines for that long seems statistically impossible. Some might love it, but others might need several very long vacations from each other.
Yeah. You would likely see a total cultural shift. Maybe relationships would require mandatory sabbaticals, like, I love you dearly, but I am going to move to Italy for a decade. I will see you in 10 years.
A 10-year relationship pause. It sounds absurd to us now, but it might be the only way to preserve sanity.
And if we zoom out from the family unit, all of these compounded generations lead us straight into a massive brick wall, the global infrastructure.
This is where the thought experiment hits hard physical limits. If people live to 200 and keep having children, the population doesn't just grow, it booms dramatically.
The math breaks down almost immediately. We're already feeling the strain on housing, food, and transportation today.
Exactly. Resources would face incredible challenges.
If the population doubles or triples because no one is cycling out of the system, how do our cities even function?
They wouldn't. Urban planning would have to become hyperdense. Cities would grow massively. Humanity might even need to expand to other planets.
Wait, really? Like space colonization just to make room?
Honestly, yes. We might be forced to colonize Mars simply because Earth has run out of physical square footage for our massive aging population.
Pushed into the stars because Earth is too crowded. That is wild. But let's look at an even more immediate crisis, the economy and work.
Ooh, the retirement problem.
Yes. Right now, retiring at 65 is the goal. But if everyone lives to 200, that is impossible. You cannot physically fund a 130-year vacation.
The math is brutal. To sustain yourself, you would likely have to remain in the workforce until you are at least 120.
I am sorry, but the idea of working until I am 120 sounds absolutely exhausting. How could governments even support a workforce that never leaves?
That exhaustion is exactly why the single-track career would have to be abolished. The human mind cannot endure a century of the same job.
So what happens instead?
Well, the silver lining is that people could regularly start over.
And by start over, you mean begin again from the very beginning.
Exactly. You work for 30 years, build up savings, take a 5-year sabbatical, and then start over in a completely new field. It makes careers healthier and more flexible.
Oh, micro-retirements. Taking 5 years off in your 70s to reset and then choosing a new path, I actually love that.
Right. It wouldn't be seen as a failure. It would be an expected part of the human life cycle.
But wait, let's play this out. If I start over and enter a brand new industry at age 90, I am an entry-level intern,
Oh, as you are.
which means I'm going to have a 110-year-old boss aggressively telling me how to format a spreadsheet. The workplace dynamics would be so strange.
It would be a total inversion of seniority. It would require an incredible amount of humility to answer to a supervisor decades younger than you.
So the utopia of endless time suddenly looks a lot like an overcrowded world where you work for a century and a half.
It really does, which forces us to look at the ultimate philosophical question of a 200-year life. Does a longer life actually mean a better life?
Right. Would life feel less special if it lasted 2 centuries?
That is the dividing line. Part of what makes life meaningful is that it is limited. We value time because we know it is finite.
Scarcity creates value. We treasure a beautiful sunset or a weekend with family precisely because we know we don't have an infinite supply of them.
Exactly. If you remove the boundary, philosophers argue that today loses its weight. Death is the very thing that gives life its shape.
But there is an optimistic counterargument. More years simply mean more adventures, more learning, and more memories.
That is very true.
Regardless of whether we live to 80 or 200, the internal drive is the same. The goal is always to make the most of it.
And by make the most of it, we mean using an opportunity as effectively as possible.
Right. We want to extract every ounce of joy and curiosity from the time we are given.
I think a longer life would fundamentally change our relationship with time, but whether that is a good or bad thing depends entirely on the individual. It acts as a mirror.
Exactly. So before we wrap up, let's just do a quick recap of those key English phrases we wove into the conversation today for our B1 and B2 learners.
Great idea. First, we talked about life expectancy, which is just the average number of years a person is expected to live.
Then we discussed the fear of running out of time, which simply means not having enough time left to finish something.
We also talked about the freedom to start over, meaning to begin something again from the very beginning, like a new career.
And finally, making the most of it, which is using an opportunity or your time as effectively and joyfully as possible.
Perfect recap.
So let's summarize this incredible journey for you all. Extending life to 200 years offers incredible opportunities to learn and reinvent ourselves.
But it brings unexpected challenges too, like overpopulation, endless careers, and the risk of infinite procrastination.
While this deep dive was designed to be accessible, these concepts are vast, and they leave you with plenty to think about regarding how you spend your days right now.
It really clarifies what is actually important today.
Absolutely. So we want to leave you with a final provocative question to ponder.
Yes, like this one.
If you suddenly found out today that you were guaranteed to live to be 200 years old in perfect health, what is the very first thing in your current life that you would stop rushing to finish?
Such a good question. It forces you to look at your artificial urgencies.
Think about it. What stress would simply evaporate? Let that question sit with you. And in the meantime, maybe rethink the decorations for your next major birthday.
Yeah, safety first.
Always. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we will catch you next time.